Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the replay of this special live on YouTube, all about how to use language learning as a brain exercise in your memory palaces. And I'm in Sydney right now and really excited to be here. We got a video coming out very soon about using the Sydney Opera House as a memory palace. So if you're not already subscribed, get subscribed and hit that thumbs up if you're ready to go. And if you're watching the replay, you can always hit subscribe and hit the thumbs up as well. If you're joining us live, get engaged. And right now there's a very special thing going on over at magneticmemorymethod.com/language. So join that up if you can. And again, if you're joining us live, get active, hit the thumbs up. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking, and how things are going with your language learning practice and your brain exercise. And we'll talk about how to use memory palaces for language learning. And again, this is live from Sydney, but you can always get involved with the replay. So we had a really exciting time here. We were over at the Sydney Opera House, and using it as a memory palace is really fun. I can tell you that much. If you haven't done it, then I highly recommend it. But one of the things that came up while I was here, I'm at a training, and one of the persons asked me, is like, I really just want the magnetic memory method for brain exercise, for the longevity of my mind against Alzheimer's, dementia, and so forth. What would I memorize? And I said, well, what would improve your life immediately? Let me know what that would be, because that's one of the best things you can do to learn the techniques and to experience amazing brain exercise. And what you would do is just think about what is that thing. So if it was a language and so forth. And anyway, his name was Mike, and he already knows music, and there was something going on in his life with Sanskrit and so forth. So I was sharing how I'm learning and memorizing Sanskrit chants and phrases, and so that could be great brain exercise. But I said, basically, ultimately, the thing that you might want to do is memorize a deck of cards. If you just want straight brain exercise that's portable, you can take it anywhere. And the cool thing about that is that, and the very good thing about that is that what it's going to do is it's going to enable you to have multiple levels of brain exercise and learn the different memory disciplines, maybe almost all of them, and then you'll have a basis for applying them across the board in your life. So that was really exciting to have that opportunity, and just to explain that if you're using these memory techniques, you're getting brain exercise. So just think about what it is that you would actually like to do, and then memorize that, and you'll be getting top level brain exercise because you're using it organically, purely with your mind, or better said, how your mind interacts with the surrounding world and with information. And then that ends up actually just opening up your spatial memory, what's called spatial mapping. And your neurons, some of those neurons are as long as your arm, right? And one of the reasons why you have so many blasts of pleasure when you're using memory techniques is because the electrons are they're literally firing along neural network pathways as long as your arm. And you just start to feel so alive in your brain and so amazingly refreshed and supercharged. And memory techniques, they always create more energy than you're spending. So you get even more wonderful benefits if you're doing the brain exercise with information that's actually improving your life. So it was really cool to share that with him, and a really great opportunity. If you're joining us now on the live, I see we're getting some thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up and let me know in the chat where you are in the world. One of the exciting things is that I don't often do these live streams at this time of day, so I'd love to hear from you and ensure that you can actually hear me and so forth. Nicholas is here from Switzerland. Also, guten Tag. Es ist eine lange Weile. So for those who don't speak German, I just said good day, and it's been a while. Asif is here from India. Thanks for saying hello. If you're joining us, we talked about how the neurons are this long, some of them in your brain, some of them may be even longer. You get engaged, you start to join in the conversation, ask some questions. That's what makes these lives awesome, but it also opens up those neural pathways, and the electricity is just, and, oh man, it's amazing what can start to happen when you open the floodgates. So Nicholas says, let's see, Guten Abend here. Oh, it's good evening in Switzerland, in der Schweiz. All right, cool. Guten Abend. Mochi is here from Philippines. Oh, wow, the Philippines. Amazing. So great to see you all here. Thanks for saying hello, and keep them thumbs up coming, and keep saying hello. If you have questions, pop them in. That's what this is all about. This is a public service to just bring awareness to memory techniques, to the wonderful tradition, how it can be used for language learning, for brain exercise, and as I want to talk about today, language learning as a brain exercise, and just to create awareness essentially around that's exactly what is happening. And it can be your own mother tongue. It doesn't have to be learning another language. So many interesting conversations coming up recently about, well, I'm not learning a language, so what's, I have this special right now. If you're not in the masterclass, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language, and people say, well, I'm not learning a language. And the reality is that fluency comes up a lot, and some people, I just got an email from a guy earlier today. He just said, you guys are all redefining the term fluency, and there's some truth to that. A lot of the language learners, they pick better definitions of fluency and they change it from the dictionary definition. Fließend, since Nicholas is here, and it's 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 so powerful to really understand that you really are in charge of the definition of fluency, and in your own mother tongue. If you use the dictionary definition, you are not fluent. I'm not fluent in English. I'm not fluent. I don't even know what that would mean, right? There's always so many more words to learn. There's just the Oxford English Dictionary is just filled with words I don't know. Yet, you could create the illusion, one could hypnotize oneself into thinking that I'm fluent in English, but the truth is that most of the words in English, no idea, right? So, yes, we're redefining the term fluency, but if you want to work on your memory, work on it in your mother tongue. Work on your mother tongue. Yi Led is here with Yee. Hey, Yee, right back at you. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. But does that make sense to everyone? Let me know what your definition of fluency is in the chat, and let's see what other people think. Don't have to agree with me, but one of the such interesting and shocking things is that people come to me sometimes and they say, how do I do this with zillions of words? Already they're stacking the chips against themselves because there's no language we know of that has zillions of words. And when we look at the actual numbers of what the different levels are in the different languages, such as B1, B2, C1, C2, and so forth, if you were studying another language, like they're shockingly small numbers. And if you would just set a goal for yourself that you were going to proceed towards it at a regular clip, right? Well, just make the memory palaces, show up to the beautiful craft, art, and science of memory, and get it done. And don't worry about the big numbers. Just worry about the numbers that you can tackle and move towards them, because you're going to deal with words one at a time anyway, right? And yes, a lot of language learners, learning teachers, they say you got to learn them in phrases. You got to learn them in phrases. And I've talked with Ollie Richards a lot about this. Like, we get down and dirty and philosophize and strategize and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, it's really the case that you need to do both, right? Because there are some words that you just have to learn, and you don't have the context of a sentence, but you're going to have to use them in sentences anyway, because there's very few words that exist outside of sentences. But there's a problem in telling people to not focus on individual vocabulary, because if you want to use memory techniques, you're never going to learn how to memorize entire phrases if you don't know how to memorize individual words. I shouldn't say never. Never is a dangerous term. But what I mean to say is you're going to create so much more difficulty for yourself if you don't master one word at a time in terms of mnemonics, and then develop the skills to do entire phrases. So that's really important to understand. And, just don't put the cart in front of the horse. Master the fundamentals. It's just common sense. I don't know why common sense isn't more common, but it's you see all the people who do really well with memory skills, and it's just a combination of just getting in there and mastering the fundamentals and then moving on to the whiz bang stuff, right? And even then, I love memorizing individual words, and then I memorize them in phrases after that. So you know, I don't really. I find that the shortcut is just taking the basics first and going from there. So Yeedy Led says, "Great to see you. Cool hair. Very cool." Yes, indeed. Asif says, "Sir, see, I'm preparing for competitive exams, and I will have to memorize over 2,500 vocabulary words. I've attended your course, but there's a lot to memorize." Great. Well, Asif, I hope that that message is coming through to you loud and clear, because 2,500 words, no big deal. 2,500 words just means building the strategy, building the memory palaces. And congratulations, by the way, for taking a course with me. If you just revisit it, then you might see it with different eyes when you take it the second time. Just break it down. Break it down. There's actually a mathematical calculation that you can make, and you can figure out how many words that you would need to do to proceed towards that. And then, if you understand the magnetic memory method, and you can learn all about it in full at magneticmemorymethod.com/language, for a special offer going on right now, what you'll understand is that this compounds, it scales. So you don't need any more than the recommended memory palaces that I talk about. And you just need to understand that you memorize the words first, then you memorize the words and phrases, and then it compounds, right? It compounds so quickly because there's a thing in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass called the Magnetic Memory Method Vocabulary Builder. So you just, you might have Asif, you might have your own words that you have to cover, and you can just work with those. But if you're coming to a language cold, then what you can do is just get the vocabulary builder and memorize those words. And I didn't pull them out of a hat. These are the words that make the biggest difference the fastest, so that you're able to go and learn the right sentences around those words. And it all compounds perfectly, crisply, and it's just a matter of, hey, these are the words. I'm going to memorize these ones and just have the discipline to sit down with those ones. So, what are these words? Well, they're broken into the parts of speech that you're most likely to bump into, and they're not pulled out of a hat. I am friends with some of the world's most renowned polyglots and language learners, and I have the ears of some of the most renowned language or just learning experts as such. And we hang out, we're friends, and we talk and strategize, and they helped me build the vocabulary builder, and they helped me do a lot better in my own language learning, because I had a strategy that's still pretty good, but it's even better with their help. And so that's in the vocabulary builder. And if you just don't overthink it, and you don't try to have zillions of words, but you just focus on those words, and then get some sentences going, you're done. You're done relative to the definition of fluency that we're going to help you create, the one that serves you. So if it's 2,500 words, this really is not a problem, because then you just break it down to what you think you can do, set the goals to achieve those outcomes, and create the memory palaces that support the system, and then, go from there, and you'll see how it compounds when you're doing it properly. And there's many, many, many wonderful mental games to play. And the beautiful thing is what properly means has some wiggle room, right? And what I mean by that is, if you, like Tony Buzan told me one time, he said, the rules will set you free. We were just sitting there at dinner, the rules will set you free. And it really, struck a deep gong inside of me, because I realized that every time is where I found the most freedom, is just submitting to the rules. But the thing that you understand about the rules, it's like in the Matrix, there is no spoon and it starts to bend, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that there is a spoon, and the reason that it bends, and the reason why you can say there is no spoon, is because you've come to understand the rules to such an extent that you know where the bends are, and you know where the wiggle room is. But the truth is, and the reality is that only you know those through experience that you've earned by actually showing up to the art, the craft, and the science of memory, and showing up with seriousness, with integrity, with all the best mature learning skills and habits that you can bring, and just get it done. Just follow the rules, and then you will achieve that goal. And one of those guidelines is make a better definition of fluency. And happy to help you figure out what that better definition of fluency is for you. All the tools are in the Magnetic Mary Method Masterclass for how to do that. There are tools for how to organize your day and organize your week so that you're hitting those goals. You can think of it as key performance indicators. And when you just proceed along, away you go. And it's just that simple. So a lot of the thing is just getting out of your own way and allowing yourself to follow the guidelines, the principles. So let's check in with our chat here. I really appreciate you all saying hello. If you're just joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where in the world you are. And we'd love any questions you have, any comments you have. And I really appreciate Asif's question so far. Tea Time says, hello from West Oz. I agree with what you're saying about language learning. Well, thank you, Tea Time. I'm in Sydney now, as you may have heard, and I assume West OZ means Western Australia. I'd love to come out there and visit sometime, maybe do a lab training for people. Thank you about your comment there. Mochi says, I'd like to ask this. I've been using Memory Palace for a while now, mainly to memorize many complicated formulas. My problem is I've been too tired after I've used it. Any solution? Great question, Mochi. And the tiredness thing, it's really interesting because the way I teach it, when people do it, they create more energy than they burn, except when they have other issues. So what's your sleep like? What's your diet like? What is your fitness like? When are you doing it in the day? Are there other times you could do it in the day that would be better? And are you using the magnetic Mary method? I mean, that's the question to ask, because basically it really will create more energy than it burns. And I was today at this training with Dean Jackson. If you need to learn about marketing, go to deanjackson.com, listen to his podcasts, like I Love Marketing podcast, and More Cheese, Less Whiskers, and he's just like a genius. Really, really love that guy. And one of the things that we were talking about is how can we design our lives so that we just get rid of all the things that drain us of energy and only focus on the things that create energy. And that's what I've worked on in memory for many, many years. Because when I first got into memory, it was exactly this problem. I went and I just discovered this magical world, and I got the techniques, and I understood the techniques very, very well. And I was just, there's something inefficient here. There's something that's just not right. There's something and one of the things is that some of the most famous books in memory have 2 pages on memorizing vocabulary by people who don't speak any other languages. And so this is where I had to figure some stuff out, because it's very tiring to approach vocabulary the way that they do. And I thought, what's the energy creating way? And look, I didn't figure it out overnight. I was at it for quite some time. I had the epiphany that was, oh man, it was amazing, this epiphany to have. Just thinking about it brings back so much pleasure, that moment of figuring it out. And by the way, there's a podcast about that, which is called The Story of How to Learn and Memorize German Vocabulary. If you ever want to listen to it in full or read it, it's also in written form on the blog. And I just realized this will create so much more energy and pleasure and fun and just going on and on and on and on. It endlessly creates more energy and enthusiasm that I just can't stop myself from using it. And now I'm memorizing Sanskrit phrases, and that's even cooler. That was my previous video there here on YouTube. So if you haven't seen that and you want to know a little bit about why I'm memorizing Sanskrit and why it might be useful for you too, to create more energy and to help you really have clarity and focus in your mind, so that you're not on the rat wheel and you don't get lost in all this useless thoughts. Check that video out. I think it'll really help you. But yeah, it was very, very important to me to understand that about memory, is that there are ways of using memory techniques that will drain you, but there are better ways that will always create more energy and be much more fun. So Mochi, I encourage you to think about those things, because the reality is I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle in the early days, and it was why I was depressed. I don't know if you know that story. Plenty of opportunities to hear that story. Let's not get into it now. But I was, in a bad place, and I was overweight. I drank a lot during university. I was depressed, clinical depressed, with medication and so forth. And I didn't get into my health optimization that I have now for many years until it was mission critical to do so, and thank goodness I have learning skills and memory skills, so that when it, it's sad that I had to hit rock bottom, but nonetheless, that's the way it is for us sometimes, right, as human beings. And I got it sorted really quickly because of being able to learn and remember things quickly. But even then, the memory techniques, I got them so that they created more energy than they burned. And it's not a substitute, I can tell you now, having been on both sides, it's not a substitute for just taking care of your diet, taking care of your sleep, taking care of your hydration, taking care of making sure you're seeing enough people regularly who you admire, who pull you up instead of, put you down. And I've had that in my life where I was around negative people. And I'll tell you, sometimes living on the internet like I do, you just can't avoid negative people, because there are people who want to drag you down, and they're just in a bad mood or whatever. I don't think about it too much, but nonetheless, none of us can fully extract ourselves from the jungle of all kinds of people, but you can make choices to just be around less and deal with it differently. Like, no one has the right to take energy from your mind, and unless you give them that opportunity. So those are lots of things that I would suggest that you focus on, and then just make sure you've got the best possible memory techniques in the world. So hope that helps you out, Mochi. And I see that you said, thank you so much, Anthony. Well, thank you, Mochi. That's a great question, and one that I will never tire of answering, because I've seen both sides of the equation. I used to eat just like garbage. Memory techniques still work, but man, they work so much better now that I have my brain fueled on proper food. And there's a video here on YouTube about the diet that I do and how that I learned this diet. So I highly recommend that you check that out. So let's check in with the chats here. Nicholas says, oh, Erasmus is here. Great. And good to see you, Rasmus. Thanks for saying hello. Thanks for saying hello to everybody. Everybody say hello to Rasmus and hit that thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world if you're just joining us. Nicholas says, I'm glad you're doing some of these live chats in the evening, which makes it mid-morning here. I can finally watch you live. Oh, yeah, thank you, Nicholas. Well, speaking of, taking care of your sleep and so forth, one of the reasons why it's difficult for me to do evenings, and I'm going to be working out a way to do them more often for you all, is just that I guard it. I guard my evenings as much as I can and get shut down, so that on most nights we can get me into bed. And it's about my protecting my own memory and my brain health. Like, I might use these techniques all the time, but I'm not gonna. I'm hedging my bets, let's say. I'm not taking any risks. So I want to make sure I'm getting as much sleep as I possibly can, and spending time hanging out with my wife and going for walks and just, doing exactly what it is that needs to be done. But now that I know that, 6 p.m. is not too late, or 7 p.m. is getting on to now, it's not too late, so maybe we can do some more in the evenings for this part of the world. But generally, I'm at my best in the evening. In the morning. But if I know that it's appreciated, then, and I do, then we can make it more time. So thanks for letting me know that you appreciate that, Nicholas. And but just so you all know, and I would encourage you to do the same, like protect and guard time. And one of the things that I learned, and it is something that's a challenge to practice, but you want to wind down, plan to have 2 hours of wind down time, really. Especially if you have a wild mind like I do. Like, I just got endless ideas all the time. There's endless things to be doing, and one of the reasons why that my language learning project right now, in addition to Chinese, is Sanskrit, and these Sanskrit phrases, is to better refine my mind so that I know how to wind it down even better than I knew before. I'm always looking for the upper edge, so that sleep can be protected and really be deep sleep and an extraordinary, wonderful, restful occasion, so that my memory is operating and humming at the fastest speed it can, with the greatest accuracy that it can, and so that I'm also just present to information, and present to people who are bringing the information. And I find this is the most amazing thing to do. So I highly recommend that you do that as well. So let's see. Asif says, but the problem is Time is limited to 3 months, and I have to work on other subjects too, but right now I could only learn a few words a day. It's time consuming. All right, well, Asif, the thing to work on there is very simple. One, stop calling it a problem, right? That's just a frame. The way we frame things is how we walk through the door. So change it around, right? Just say, I have 3 words today. When am I going to do it, right? Am I going to do it first thing in the morning? Am I going to do it after lunch? Whatever, right? And think about the opportunity that you have as the opportunity instead of the problem. Might seem like blah 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 mindset stuff, but mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. It is one of the biggest levers that you have. If you can change the way you think about things, then, as Wayne Dyer always used to say, the things that you think about change, right? And there is maybe a little bit of woo-woo, la-di-da stuff there, but I found that in practice, it is exactly this way. It's exactly this way. You don't have a problem that needs solving. Rather, what you need is a portal to the opportunity to use your memory at the highest possible level. Because one way or the other, if you want to succeed, you've got those 2,500 words, right? So are you going to approach it as a problem, or are you going to approach it as an opportunity? That's the number one decision to make. And you also have other opportunities. You have the opportunity to learn more about memory techniques and to practice them and to learn them through practice, because it's the opportunity to do so. If you can let go of the outcome of all 2,500 words and just do your damnedest to get wherever you get, well, this is a much better way to proceed, right? Because you have to let go of the outcome anyway. And I hope you all understand this, because here's the thing that none of us knows. There may be an earthquake that pummels the city, as it did to Simonides of Kos, from whom we often talk about as the origin of the memory palace. He didn't sit there in the memory palace, or in the banquet hall there, memorizing all the names of the people and saying, oh, you know what? There might be an earthquake, so I just can't memorize all of them. I only have time for 3. No, he just memorized all the names because nobody knows what's going to happen. And he just cheerfully showed up to the task and the art and the science and the craft of memory, and he just did what he had to do. Hey, Harvinder's here. Harvinder is one of our greatest family members in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass and the Mastermind, and so good to see you. Wonderful. Thanks for saying hello. But does that make sense to you? Turn it into an opportunity. Turn it into an opportunity and just change the rules of the game, like we were talking about earlier. The rules will set you free, but there's another secret behind that, which is that you can set a lot of those rules. And those rules can then set you even freer because you have set the rules. And you set them in such a way that you're stacking the game in your favor. And so why not do that? Why not set it up in such a way? And if you're telling me, Asif, that 3 words is all you got, and it takes a lot of time, well, then think about, did you take the opportunity to take the right training from the right people who actually do language learning every day and who have figured out these techniques and who have the verification of people like Benny Lewis from Fluent in 3 months, and from Ollie Richards, and from like Ollie Richards of I will teach you a language.com, and Barbara Oakley from Learning How to Learn. Like, are you taking training from those people, or are you trying to do it based on training from what I started with, which was 2 pages on vocabulary and like pulling my hair out because these guys obviously don't know anything about language learning, because there's obviously something to this. So you have the opportunity there as well. And for all of you, if you're not in the masterclass like Harvinder is, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language and at least check it out and see what's going on there, because we do this all the time. And it's really just a matter of helping people understand the opportunity, create the mindset, learn the skills, put the cart where it belongs, not ahead of the horse, but behind it, so that the horse can pull you through the language learning journey. And if you start out at just 3 words a day, and it takes you more energy or more time than you'd like to be spending, well, that's another opportunity to sit down and say, well, what could I be doing better here? And if you're in the masterclass and the mastermind that you can get into at magneticmemorymethod.com/language, Well, then, hey, you got like dozens and dozens and dozens of memory palaces to look at. You got people there who, get engaged and so forth, and you got the massive uh, library to go through, the FAQ section, where there's plenty of demonstration videos, the full course on vocabulary memorization. You've got this huge opportunity to just get some guidance. Like, what could I do that this doesn't take so much time? Look at all the examples that are there. We got a wonderful story here that I just received the other day that I'd love to share from you from Peggy. And I'm so impressed with her. She went through the 30-day German vocabulary challenge that I offer. And wow, like what she has to say here was so inspiring that I'd love to share it with you. I haven't put it up on the website anywhere as a testimonial, but she sent this email with subject line, "My Testimonial," and she says, "Is it really possible to improve my memory even at an advanced age? I was skeptical. I am a 69-year-old retired RN and first grade teacher. I've always been very curious and consider myself to be a lifelong learner. Because I'm retired, I have a lot of time to pursue my many interests. For example, I live in rural Vermont in the USA. I have a library card and I ride my bike at least 5 times to get books read. At the start of the summer, I was reading books by Oliver Sacks, and his superbly written description of some of the treatment of patients led me to think about my own brain and neurological health. With my own advancing age, I had some concerns about my memory. Alzheimer's has hit our family tree, and so I began adding coconut oil to my diet and reading some things online. I guess all my Googling about Alzheimer's and memory brought me recommendations to view Anthony Metivier's YouTube channel. I watched a few, then I watched a few more, and then I signed up for the magnetic memory method and implemented the advice and recommendations, and now I listen every day to the podcast. The lessons do not disappoint. I am in the midst of a personal memory renaissance. I no longer waste time worrying about Alzheimer's. I spend my time instead developing a magnetic memory. I became reacquainted with the major method, which I first learned decades ago from Harry Lorraine and Jerry Lucas, and I began memorizing a deck of cards, and I started a memory notebook, and then one for Spanish, and then one for German, and I began making superior memory palaces with the guidance of Anthony's advice. I memorized the U.S. presidents and the dates they began in office, the geography of U.S. states and their capitals, the ABCs backwards, the daily top 10 stories, information from the books I was reading, and Dr. Metivier encourages us to research all that we can. In case you're new, my last name is Metivier, and I am a PhD, so they called me doctor. Anyway, Dr. Metivier encourages us to research all that we can. And so my son took a double take when I was rattling off all that information while he was visiting during the beginning of the summer. And then my daughter and grandchildren came to visit, and they noticed and questioned me about all the floor plans, especially the ones depicting their bedrooms that they found scattered around my writing surfaces. So I was lucky enough to take advantage of Dr. Metivier's special offer for the German enhanced ebook, and I took a year of a year of German 52 years ago. Wow, 52 years ago when I was in high school. My motivation to reacquaint myself with the German language is that my brother is treating me to attend Wagner's Ring Cycle at the Metropolitan Opera in New York next May. Equipped with all the tips from Dr. Metivier, I now have the means to really make some progress. I'm sure the operas will be more enjoyable if I can learn as much German as possible before May rolls around, and I am filled with positivity that I can meet some accelerated success now that I have a method, a magnetic method. Along with the offer for the German enhanced ebook came the invitation to join a private, it's actually a secret, Facebook German Hacks group, German Memory Hacks it's called, where a 30-day German vocabulary challenge was posted. This gave me the inspiration and discipline to complete making 26 memory palaces for each letter of the alphabet and making an entry for 30 days. Was I perfect? No! I was hosting a house full of guests in the middle of the challenge, which was very distracting, but I caught up with the days I missed when I could, and it stayed on track. It was difficult at first for me to come up with the 26 different places for each letter of the alphabet, but then I read or watched how I could use the bodies of people or pets to make small palaces of 20 magnetic stations. I guess I've always been more of a people person, so it was very easy for me to come up with many memorable people, and I have no problem differentiating one foot from the other because my mind in the person's face are so memorable that it's not a problem. Then, when I max out the person's stations, I plan to have the person walk to a unique building to populate with my expanding German vocabulary. So, in addition to making my memory palaces and my own entries of one vocabulary word each day, I read and took notes on the previous participants' words and their descriptions of their imagery. See, this is one of the benefits of being in one of my 30-day challenges, is because you get the history of all the other people who went through it, and you see my own examples as well. So that's a lot of fun that Peggy was not only there, but she was taking the opportunity to do this, right? So she said, I read and took notes on the previous participants' words and their descriptions of their imagery. Before long, it's become quicker and easier to imagine my own magnetic imagery. Amazingly, Anthony personally commented and made useful recommendations on sometimes made useful recommendations on each of my entries to the 30-day challenge. There were times when I didn't necessarily pick up anything, so you're free to go at your own pace without interruptions from me. But sometimes she had these things, and I'd be like, hey, in German they actually say it this way, and like here's a link to this, that, and the other thing, and so on. Anyway, she said this one-to-one attention is rare from an expert like Anthony, even though I'm not. I think he could recognize and wanted to encourage my genuine efforts as a serious student of his method. His class seems fairly priced, and I wish more people would become full members and take advantage of more of his wisdom. Meanwhile, I am an example of how a person can make some big changes without even spending a lot. And when a totally authentic and dedicated teacher comes along, such as Dr. Metivier, who is very generous in sharing his knowledge, it becomes simple to improve your memory. In addition, he is working on making the challenge available in other languages, and I can keep in mind that there's nothing to stop me from continuing with the discipline and methods I've begun to make a magnetic habit. I hope you also see how the everyday quality of your own life may become more enriched through his teachings. So stay magnetic. So, yeah, basically, she's got all these pictures of her memory palaces too, which I hadn't seen because they weren't posted there. But there's also a picture of her memory journal, and really interesting. And yeah, it's just a wonderful story. And it's just that thing. If you just show up, like there's a certain point in that challenge where you self-report on what your rate of recall is, and we're not looking for people to somehow create fantasy stories or anything like that. That is not a reflection of where they're really at. And it's just amazing, the self-reporting where people are just exactly where you would expect them to be based on memory science. And if there are any struggles, which I don't recall seeing with people, well, there's just the opportunity to talk about it in there and see examples. So Akshit says, this is very inspiring. Thank you very much, Anthony. Asif says, thank you. Mochi says, I've read your blogs and I've finished your free memory kit. Everything really helped me so far, and I thank you for it. Excellent, everybody. Thank you for checking that stuff out. I mean, that's what it's there for. Go through it. Go through it seriously with intent. And if it's for you, then there's more in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass at magneticmemorymethod.com/language. And that's a special offer that's expiring very soon, tomorrow. So grab it while you can, and listen, there's just so much to be had. There's so many stories. If I go over to the testimonial page and so forth, Peggy's is one of the longer descriptions, and I really am grateful that she went into such detail there, and we've got to get it up on that page. Maybe put up some of her memory palaces there. I've got so many that I never published yet. There's just no end. But if you just go to magneticmemorymethod.com/testimonials and get in there, like you just see all these stories of what happens when people just and I see we got even Alex Mullen, who I got to update this. He's 3 times world memory champion now. He's there, and Alex and I had a chat the other day. We recorded a nice little talk for people in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass. We're going to do some graduation bonuses for people because I'm really now devoted to there, I've just updated it. 3 times world memory champion, and I bet you he'll be 4 times this year also. But we got these graduation bonuses, and it's self-study at the end of the day. That's what memory techniques are. It's your mind, it's your memory, and you self-study and you implement and you practice, and you get guidance when you need it. But we're going to do something where you can unlock like a game. If you just would do these things, then you're going to get something very special. So we got Alex Mullen, we got a bunch of people. It's kind of still, it's not so top secret now, but I know I've been mentioning it already because I'm so excited. But the graduation bonuses thing is coming real soon, and it's one of these wonderful, wonderful things that I get to have the opportunity to do, because not only do students just love what I'm doing and support it, but so does the memory community, the other memory experts and so forth. They're just really great supporters, and many have become friends over the years, and it's just a wonderful thing, because my vision for the magnetic memory method is a university. It's a university of memory training, and we're going in that direction. Keep building and building and building in the direction of, we want a university that people can go to and to learn all of the wonderful things about memory, because there's so much to learn. Some of it's extracurricular activities. Yes, there may be some things where you're not going to have like this direct advantage somehow in memorizing names or whatever, but there's some people out there who would just love to be able to study some of those ancient texts and have a course on Middle Age memory techniques, and the classical era. And one of the graduation bonuses that we have is from Lynn Kelly, who wrote the Memory Code. And there's an opportunity there to learn more about the Aboriginal traditions and other tribal traditions. And there's nothing stopping anybody from reviving some of that great knowledge that she's uncovered there. So we talk about how to do some of that, and see some visual examples of that in this graduation bonus. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's just a matter of getting it all edited and rolling it out. But definitely, you're gonna have wonderful, wonderful surprises coming for you there. All right, so thanks everybody. I see lots of comments coming in here. Thanks for that. If you're just joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world. Jaideep says hello. Math Strix is from Nepal. Sammy says, please make it easy and funny to increase the memory capacity. Well, that's something that everybody can do if you're going to just practice making your magnetic imagery funny and easy. Practice will make it easy, and you'll get funnier at it. It doesn't always have to be funny, though. It can be shocking and strange. BJ says, where is he? I'm right now in Sydney. Nicholas says, agree regarding fluency. One always learns. Mochi says, thank you, Anthony. Tea Time says, just finished reading Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Can't recommend it enough. It's actually scary just how important 8 hours of sleep is. Thanks for recommending that, Tea Time, over in Western Australia, I think you said, or Western Oz, anyway. So, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Okay, so thanks for that recommendation. Sahil says, time pass or nothing. Not sure what that means, Sahil. Harvinder says, thank you for the warm intro. Well, thank you always for being here, Harvinder. Always good to see you. Rasmus says, have you ever tried using memory palaces for learning phrases and sentences? I'm not a big fan of learning individual words, and I personally rarely use them individually. Rasmus, great question. Look, the number one, and I mentioned it already previously on this training, the number one reason why we focus on words and that skill is because it's the path to memorizing phrases. So it's one of those, put the cart where it belongs, not ahead of the horse, but not in front of the horse, but behind the horse. And so if you don't have the skill to memorize individual words, then get that skill and then go on and memorize phrases. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. You just need the fundamentals first. But you really are in a situation where if you can't memorize individual words, then phrases, yeah, you can maybe build yourself up to it. I'm not saying you can't. It's just, isn't it more likely to build the foundation from the ground up instead of this roof sentence like that? You see these buildings, the building is like this, but the roof is like that, right? Well, how do you get that to work, right, in terms of physics? Well, you get it to work because you built the foundation first, and the foundation is strong and it supports this long thing. Same thing in memory. If you want to learn how to memorize entire sentences, you're going to want to learn how to memorize individual words first and have some practice with that. But basically, how it works is just very simple. You make the memory palaces, you memorize individual words, and then you go back and memorize phrases for the words. And that's where some of the magic just really starts to unlock and happen, because you get compounding effect. And that's where it scales. And so there's a lot of thinking and a lot of logic in it. And the number one challenge is just inspiring people to understand that if you follow the rules will set you free. And it will just like pop. And that's exactly how it works. And that's why the vocabulary builder is there. You don't even have to think about the words, right? You memorize those ones, right? Now, the vocabulary builder is in English, but you then go and find out what those words are in the language that you would want. There's this percentage of those words where they may be actually not individual words, or there might be some variations there where they're said so differently, and so forth. But 80-20 rule, right? You just barrel through and you're going to get huge results. And there's a course in the masterclass called the Ultimate Language Learning Secret that's all about how you get all that stuff done in terms of your habits, in terms of the reading, writing, speaking, and listening, so you're able to get those elements in, and you just hit the ground running because you've got the foundations. You've got those foundational skills, and you see how they apply to it's not just about phrases, Rasmus. It's also about dialogues, because memorizing entire dialogues is a very rich thing and rewarding thing to be able to do. Imagine the actor who only knows their lines and has no sense of the lines of the other person, right? So how do you get to be able to do that? I mean, there's different styles of acting where they wouldn't want to memorize the other person's lines to emulate surprise and so forth. But generally, like Shakespeare, let's say, generally the Shakespearean actor will know, or at least have a good solid sense of what the other character is going to say. So it's not just about memorizing phrases. You can memorize entire dialogues, and it's highly recommended that you do. So you want to start from the foundations. So basically, that's the answer. If you can memorize individual words, well then, go straight to phrases. If you can't, build the house from the foundations up, not from the roof down. So I hope that helps you out, Rasmus. Let me know if you're joining us. Hit that thumbs up. Get subscribed to this channel if you're not already, and hit the bell icon or whatever little thing that they might be showing you so that you're notified when we go live next time. And let me know where you are in the world if you haven't said hello in the chat yet. Aksheet says, this is really inspiring. Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you. Really grateful that you're here. Hey Jay says, is it necessary for me to use memory palaces just for vocabulary? I usually try to find a way to connect the word I'm learning to its English word without a memory palace. Well, look, it depends on how you want your strategy to work. If you want it to scale, it just depends on you. Like, is it necessary? No, people learn languages without memory palaces. I never would do it. To me, it seems absolutely insane. But if you can do that and you can make it fast enough that you don't need it, then there's nothing. There's no memory palace police floating around that are going to come down from the memory palace heaven and say, you're not getting here unless you use memory palaces. That's not the way it is. Interestingly enough, a lot of polyglots, they use memory palaces for what they call the stubborn quintile. And these are the 5 to 20% of words that they can't memorize any other way, because some of them prefer flashcards, index cards, spaced repetition software, and so forth. But here's the thing. It's not the spaced repetition software or the index cards that's actually doing it for them. It's the discipline and the integrity and how they're using something more than just that information displayed there, right? So it's a lot of things going on, plus reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So one gets the impression from a lot of marketing and stuff like this, and shorthand communication, that somehow the magic of memory and learning happens from just exposing yourself to these cards again and again and again. But that's not true. That's far from the truth. And even then, there's this, what they call the stubborn quintile, which is a great word for it, 5 to 20% of the words that they can't memorize any other way, and then they'll go to something like the memory palace. And you just got to look through some of their descriptions of how that they do it. But must you do it? No police gonna come and get you if you don't. But the thing is you got to understand too that life is a long place. Life is short, but it's also long, and it's a fundamental skill that will serve you in so many ways that you would do very, very well very well indeed to master it anyway, so that you're unlocking your spatial memory. Because spatial mapping is one of the best free resources that we have. And when you learn the magnetic memory method, here's what happens. There's a reason. Like, it just didn't pull this out of the hat because it sounded cool. But there's a reason why that we do this. It's because spatial memory and spatial mapping unlock autobiographical memory. Autobiographical memory unlocks episodic memory. Episodic memory unlocks semantic memory. And, well, actually, probably procedural memory next would be the hierarchy. And then you have semantic memory. And when you're unlocking all these levels of memory in that order, or more or less in that order, like there's parts that just sort of happen all at the same time, well, then you're going to see, memory palace. Now I get it. Now I finally understand. And there's a reason why the magnetic memory method training has the recommendations that it has for multiple memory palaces, because you're not going to feel it otherwise. You're not going to have this blossoming of the rich depth of all those memories, skills, and types flowing at a faster pace, at a more integrated pace, and one that works seamlessly together. I'm just here in Sydney and with these guys, and I just memorize all their names like that, right? And then they say stuff, and I just memorize all the stuff that they're saying that's relevant to me and so forth. And I get to do that because of my work with spatial memory and with all kinds of other things. Cyrus McCormack, to give you one thing. Dean Jackson mentioned Cyrus McCormack. And just, it's that speed that people want with memory techniques of association and so forth. You get it from not just practicing these techniques, but practicing them from the basis of the technique that unlocks all the other superpowers of memory. So spatial memory is the path to unlocking autobiographical memory, episodic memory, semantic memory, procedural memory, and all the memories. There's surely more. Not only that, but one of the issues that we face and that we have to think about is the memory biases or biases, because people sometimes have these memory biases, and so I got more material coming up about that at some point. But the point is that we can sit here and talk all day about the memory science and what's happening behind it and so forth. All that really needs to happen is just, if you want to get into the science, well, we'll talk about it all day. But really, it happens from doing and doing and doing and doing it in the most optimal way from the beginning. Hit the ground running. And so many people, they come to me later in the game and they're just like, oh my goodness, this is the next level. And there's a reason why it's the next level. And in many ways, they're served very, very well, because they're learning it from other sources that it's not about right or wrong. It's just not designed to open the floodgates as soon as possible of all those levels of memory. And so they're reaching plateaus and obstacles and so forth, simply because they're learning from people who just don't do that much with memory palaces, so that you realize that memory palaces really are not what it seems. It's very different than what it seems. And that memory palace isn't even the right word. I prefer it, but actually what we're talking about is better described as location-based mnemonics. And that's just not nearly as sexy. Maybe we got to call it LBM, location-based mnemonics. I'm working on it. I'll come up with a better one. But the reality is that the memory palace is a great term too, because of the tradition and the palatial nature of the mind, right? Because the more memory palaces you create, the more your other memory palaces get better and better and more magnetic. So let me know if that makes sense to you, and let's catch in with some more of these chats we got here. I hope that helped you, Jay. Harvinder says, hello, Master Anthony. Please put me some face from some language learning group on Facebook, specifically French and English if possible. Well, Harvinder, as Peggy was saying in her thing there, I'm working on the other languages. So right now, German and Chinese 30-day challenges exist. We'll get something going for French and English in the near future when I have the enhanced ebooks working for that. The way that the enhanced ebooks work is right now we only have the German one done, and we're going to do Spanish and French next. And then we'll build towards the 30-day challenges. And look, here's the reality of this. I'm one guy, and I don't like to do anything. I don't like to teach things that I myself haven't done. So I need to go through those challenges myself, and we'll get them done. And you'll be invited to get to get the enhanced ebooks when they're ready. And I'm hoping upon hope that at least the Spanish and the French ebooks will be available without the 30-day challenges by the end of September. But I've got a lot of things going on because we're doing the graduation bonuses as well. Some, it's just that way in life. Things are like a lobster in a bucket, right? Multiple lobsters in the bucket, and you're trying to get one lobster over the top, and all these other lobsters are pulling it down. And I work all the time training. That's what I'm here in Sydney for, is to learn how to like control the lobsters in the bucket and make sure that the bigger lobsters, the ones that are the most impactful, get over. But I'm in such a world that all the lobsters are super important. So please, Harvinder, be patient. We're going to do English and French, and we're going to do every language under the sun. But I want to be able to create those. I want to pass my own tests with those things as I did in German and Chinese, because it's really, really important that you're not being exposed to phony magnetic imagery examples or mnemonic examples that I just hired somebody to do. That's important to me. And it's important to me because the other companies do that. They just make fake mnemonics, and then people struggle with it, and they don't understand, and so forth. Well, no doubt, because you can hire any monkey to come up with bizarre things and just say, hey, here are mnemonics. No, that's not cool. That's not magnetic. It's not the way it's going to go. So it's coming, and it's going to be very, very good. So thank you for the question, Harvinder, for the request, better said. But we're working on it, and it's going to be cool. But I want to do the challenge with the people, and I did it with the German thing, and then it's now in such a way that anybody can go through it, as Peggy did, and with the value of all the other people who went through it. The Chinese one's there as well, and English and French are coming. So we'll get that going as soon as we can. Aksheet says, where can I find examples of imagery from people who took the 30-day challenge? Thank you for your time, by the way. Well, actually, as I was just saying, the German enhanced ebook is the only one that's available now. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, then get in touch, and we'll make that available for you. And then you will be given access into that group. As Harvinder knows, I protect these things very closely for the people who are serious about using the techniques, because we really want to create wonderful environments of the most dedicated people. And so Harvinder was in a wonderful challenge for remembering dreams, and he was one of the most impactful participants. But it was really, really really important to me that only people who were invited were there, and we're sharing things that are in our minds and that are real. And so Harvinder was great. Like some of the drawings that he made, and like memory palaces that emerged from dreams that were so fantastic. I remember Harvinder. Well, I don't again like I protect people's privacy, and I it's just you had great imagery there, and so we were creating impactful experiences, and it's. We talked earlier about the frame. Setting the frame is so important, and I really believe in protecting the frame of many things. Like there's the self-study stuff in the masterclass, which you can go and grab self-study version at magneticmarymethod.com/language right now with a special offer that's ending in about a day. And it's very, very important that self-study is, self-study. In this case, you would join the Magnetic Mary Method Mastermind and have access to examples there that people have had, but not for any particular language. It's just the catch-all group. But it's really, really important to bring out this in a frame that is protected and honored and respected. And so that's, it can seem maybe a bit rigorous, but it's important, and all the more so. So we're actually working on a forum for the site, and that's going to be better than Facebook, I believe, because I did some surveys with people, and they just said, yeah, well, the Facebook thing, Facebook, we don't trust Facebook and so forth. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That's just kind of weird. So we're going to do a forum, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot. You know, for all the bad things that sometimes these big companies do and the weird stuff like Facebook get into trouble in the news and so forth, at the end of the day, as someone who works on websites and develops these things, like, I have some deep admiration for the work that goes into figuring this tech stuff out so that it works the way that it does. But they're right. The Facebook thing is not optimal, although it's still pretty good with the secret group kind of thing. So I don't know what these iterations are going to look like on the private forum that we're creating right now at Magnetic Memory Method, but it's going to be awesome for everybody who's involved. And I do take that very seriously when people say, well, they'd love to be in this, but they want to be anonymous, so why shouldn't they have an anonymous account? Well, you can't do that on Facebook very easily, so we're going to do that on my own site. And, it's that principle. Make the rules so that you can play the games that you can win, and the rules will set you free. Harvinder says, Master Anthony, you are great, and I'm surprised how do you manage your time? Thank you, or I'm surprised how you manage your time. Thank you for French and English. Kudos to you. And Harvinder says, I reached 67 memory palaces, dream memory palaces. I'm waiting to hit 100 first and then go on and on. 67 dream memory palaces. Wow. So that's incredible. And that's just the power of remembering your dreams. And so that challenge, I want to do another dream challenge. Is anybody here interested in remembering your dreams? Let me know in the chat. I know it can sound kind of strange, and you just be like, what? But the reality is, and like really, really get this, it's a way of just finding more information that's in your mind, and you just got to develop the skill of remembering your dreams. So Harvinder, 67, wow. So that was just over the course. We went a little bit longer than a month because it was just too much fun to stop. But generally these challenges are 30 days, and Harvinder was just popping them out left, right, and center, and it was amazing. Really loved that experience. Yeah, dream recall is such an important thing. We were talking about it today too. Dean Jackson was telling me that he had 2 times these dreams that he remembered. It was like a movie from beginning to end. He had the whole thing, and I was telling him, yeah, I did that one time too. There's a novel that you can get on Amazon called Lucas Parks and the Download of Doom. That was entirely from one of my dreams. And it wound up being number 67 in one of the science fiction categories on Amazon, so that was cool. And there's another one that I wrote that I haven't released yet called Electville that I will eventually release. And I would absolutely love to get that out there and see what you think, because it's a novel, a dream about memory palaces in the future. So Rasmus says, yeah, sure. Tea Time says, I would try. Awesome. So basically, that's what you get as part of the masterclass. So if you're not in the masterclass and you want a special offer, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language. All right, so that was a great question from Aksheet. And Cronewoman is here. Cronewoman says, hey, why are you up so early? Well, Cronewoman, it's 7:30 in Sydney, Australia. So I'm not up early at all. I guess the question is, why are you up so early? Rasmus says, the reason I'm not a fan of learning individual words is that ideas are expressed very differently and word-by-word translation doesn't work. I want to learn to speak Swedish, not English, with Swedish words. I see. Okay, well, yeah, I get the objection, but at the same time, you don't need word-by-word translation to memorize the meaning and the sound of a phrase. So that's maybe a misunderstanding from not taking the training. But yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, but this is the whole thing, and this is why it works so powerfully. Because if you will just submit to the submit like it's some kind of religion or slavery. No, it's not like that. But if you would just go into it and not overthink it, you'll understand that you don't need the word-by-word translation. You just need to know what the phrase means. Have the ability to memorize individual words. then memorize the whole phrase, and then you'll get the rest. Like gerade in German, for example. It took me a while to come around to, understanding all the possible uses of it, because it's got multiple uses, and I just knew the one use. And then because I knew the one use, I would then be able to figure out why that it was possibly in these other sentences, and just memorize those other sentences without necessarily looking it up again, and come to understand over time. So I highly recommend just not overthinking it, and see if it's gonna, just give it a good try and see if it's gonna work for you. A lot of people do this to themselves. They strategize themselves out of giving something a try because they can't see how it would work, and they're like thinking a lot about, oh, but this and that, which is, actually not a bad thing necessarily, but it's not an optimal ideal situation in many cases, because you're thinking more about the how instead of the when, right? And so when you how yourself out of opportunity instead of just when am I going to give this a try, then you're robbing yourself of so much opportunity. And I do it sometimes to myself too, and it's one of the reasons why I take all kinds of training all the time, is to get myself out of my own way, because there's so much stuff that I learned this weekend where I'm just thinking too much. And we're talking about all these things, and Harvinder's asking, like, how, it's amazing how you manage your time and so forth. Well, I learned how to manage it even better, because some of my time gets way too much into the how is this going to happen kind of stuff, and it's not useful. There's better questions. It's like, when am I going to put the time together to find the person who can do it? So it's very important. Rasmus says, yes, I'm guilty of theorizing too much instead of taking an action and giving it a try. Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing to feel bad about, and it's not like we're not playing a shame game or guilt or anything like that. We all do it in our own ways, and the challenge in life is, what are we going to do things differently? And recognize this behavior of theorizing too much, when action, action, action is what's needed. And action, action, action is what's needed in this case, when there's everything to gain and nothing to lose, right? And you'll see that over at magneticmemorymethod.com/language. You've got nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain, except for there is a deadline on this particular offer. So theorizing, I've done the theorizing for you. And like I said earlier, there's some wiggle room, and it's just a matter of diving in and giving it a try. So thanks, everyone. Really great questions today. Really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all. This is the post live stream throat clearing, so you got some last minute if you want to ask a last minute question, and I'm just going to wind down and look through, make sure I didn't miss anybody here. It's kind of an awkward thing on the mobile, but I appreciate all of these questions and the wonderful opportunity to hang out today from Sydney, Australia. Can't believe I'm in Sydney. Some things just work out so beautifully. Really having a lot of fun here, and good to know more about some of the questions people have. And basically the whole point of today was to really help you understand that all of this is brain exercise. Language learning is brain exercise, and we're having some brain exercise together right now, because we're thinking about strategy and how to strategize better, and when strategy isn't really helping, right? And so this is now re-strategizing. And it's not just about memory, it's about lots of things in life where we talk ourselves out of doing things that we know we really want to do and we can do, but we're not doing because we're strategizing ourselves out of it. So one of the things Dean Jackson was teaching this week is, like, think about being the chess master, right? How can you be 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of yourself? Know yourself, know your tendencies, and just think, okay, so I'm gonna figure out how to reposition things for getting this done, just getting it done. So Rasmus says, watching from Estonia. Tea Time says, thanks for the live stream. It's helpful and motivating. And yes, West Oz equals Western Australia. All right, thanks for confirming that. I didn't want to assume. The world is a big place. Well, I think that Estonia and Western Australia are both places that I'm going to need to be visiting in the near future, although my real plans are to get you guys to come visit me, because I think that's much more interesting. Wouldn't it be interesting to hang out and, you want to know how to memorize books and stuff? Well, let's go to the library together and get it done. Um, we may be doing that in the near future. But for now, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language, and thank you, everybody. Rasmus says thanks for your time and attention. You're very, very welcome. And if you're watching this live, and well, Cat Satan is here saying hello. Hello, Cat Satan. How are you feeling? I'm gonna stick around here for a few minutes because we need to catch up. How are you feeling? Let me know, Cat Satan. I was thinking about you actually, because that chat that we had. I was helping a good friend recently. Also, he was in a way, and it happens. It's happened to me, and it's really, really important that we're able to talk about these things. So let me know if any follow-up there. If not, no problem, but I'd love to hear how things have been since the last time we chatted here on YouTube Live. And now we get some dead air because I was planning to go, but I want to stick around just for a few more minutes to see how you've been, and remind those who are here, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language and really think about that strategy stuff that we were talking about, that chess master positioning that you could do and place yourself in, so that you're no longer strategizing yourself out of being the one who calls checkmate, but rather, you want to be the one who gets to command the table of your life, the board of your life. That's such a powerful position to be in. So maybe we'll just grab a little bit of Q&A here. Cat Satan says, feeling good, things are getting a little better, but I'm having a lot of problems with my family. Well, glad that things are getting better, and I'm sure that if you go back and watch this replay, you'll see that we've had some talk about strategizing life a little bit better, and maybe that will help. But thanks for the update, and I'm glad I stuck around to hear that, and I'm confident things are going to get better. I'm just going to stick around a few more minutes and check on, see if there's any questions in my inbox that we can check out. So, Rupan says, the most important thing for me as a student is to remember and understand things which I learn, but unfortunately I forget everything easily and get super nervous, especially in exams. Even because of bad memory, I don't remember anything regarding general knowledge of the world, no states, place, country names, and many more. What should a student know about the world? I thank you for doing such great work for the people who need this type of guidance, and I hope and believe that with your help I will overcome this problem. Yeah, well, again, it's like what we were saying earlier. Don't make it a problem. See it as a solution. Change the rules of the game. You have the opportunity to now focus on the world, the names of the countries, the names of the states, the names of the cities, the names of the capitals, whatever it is, and just create the magnetic memory method palace systems that are going to help you figure it out, and do it methodologically. So it's really that simple. Just change the thoughts. Okay, so here's Chad saying, I have a few questions. Does the masterclass come with lifetime access? Yes, absolutely. Go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language. This is all about lifetime access, for sure. And one of the things that I'm looking into is what's the company that you hire, so after I die it still gets carried on. But lifetime is lifetime, literally. But I'm going to figure out how to last for millions of years. Go out in space. Elon Musk will take the Magnetic Memory Method podcast out to Mars. We're figuring that out. And so, does the masterclass include how to memorize the terminology of any profession and speak from memory? Well, yes, it does. Oh, Ziad's here. Hi, Ziaz. Thanks for saying hello. So yeah, those things are all in there. Good questions from Chad. Jen says, trying to learn a new language. Learn a new language. Well, I wish he would say which one. But That's all very interesting. And Shane says, I'm wondering whether or not the learning material will be sent to me by post. No, the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass is 100% online digital. So I recommend that you dive in and not look into not look into the mailbox, because that's it's all online. Rasmus says, for me, two main obstacles are, first is theorizing too much instead of taking action, and the second one is then judging that my progress is not enough, and I start calling myself names and end up stopping the action taking. Well, yeah, this is mental chatter. So Rasmus, please go watch my video on the previous video to this live stream about memorizing self-inquiry questions. So after we get off here in a few minutes, go and check that out, because I think you'll find it very useful to stop that, right? And stop it as quick as you can. And it's called How to Improve Concentration and Focus by Memorizing Self-Inquiry Questions. What is self-inquiry? Well, what you'll learn to do there, and this has been very powerful for me because I've had that kind of stuff in my head as well, and it's disruptive and it's painful and it's simply not necessary. I'm glad that I stuck around when I saw Cat Satan there, because I think this is really going to help you. And it's another reason to memorize phrases, right? But based on individual words, because even to this day, Sanskrit's a pretty interesting challenge and fun for me, and I have to do it one word at a time, because it's just the nature of the language and how new it is for me and so forth. But later I'll be able to breeze through things, and already I'm accumulating enough that the repetition is there, and I'm like, aha, this is how it fits together. And there's a certain chain link kind of characteristic to it. But what you're memorizing are questions, and these are very, very powerful and wise and wonderful questions that will just ask you to think about, to whom are these thoughts occurring and where are they occurring? And that might seem weird at first, right? But what you'll find is that they're actually not really occurring to anyone, right? Because the self is so unfixed. It's so thoughts are coming into awareness, they're going out of awareness, and then if you are punishing yourself and it happens, you just say, and you pause, and it's like, how do my thoughts behave? Are they useful? Right? And then you can just say, where in my thoughts are they? And are they useful? And then when you try to find where they are, well, you realize that they really aren't anywhere, right? They're just something that came into awareness and then left awareness, or they came into awareness and they stayed in awareness, and then maybe you might find where they are, and then you can scrub them out and erase them. Now, I haven't achieved total lasting silence in the mind, which may be possible, I don't know, but I have achieved something that is called persistent non-symbolic experience. And there's apparently 8 kinds. Well, I don't know if there are or not, but I have experienced long periods of this, and it's really, really powerful, and it's from doing these exercises. I learned about them in 2 books that I talk about there, but just for now, they're called Happiness Beyond Thought and Evolving Beyond Thought by Gary Weber. And if you sit down and you learn those things, either in English or in Sanskrit and English, they're going to be very, very powerful for helping you. You just need to sit down and memorize it and practice it. And I found it so unbelievably powerful. I was just about to make this an unfamily-friendly channel because I needed a really strong word about how unbelievably powerful they are. But wow. Please do that, or find some version of it, because it'll quiet your mind and it'll increase your focus and your concentration incredibly, and you'll have some peace. I'm confident that you will. And so give it a try. It's certainly helped me, and I've had those problems also. So I hope that helps you. Harbinder says, still having the newsletter yet? Well, the print newsletter I put on pause, and thanks for asking about that. I mean, in a way, I wanted to continue doing the print newsletter, but the problems were that it wasn't easily reaching everybody in the world equally, which we found was annoying. Um, the logistics were just not right. Also, um, well, I did a survey essentially with some people, and a lot of people were saying that they were saving it to read for later, which is fine. That's their right to do. But there was, the point is you get this thing and then you do something, right? So, uh, collecting some papers for later is not what my goal was, and I didn't find it particularly fulfilling to have that go on. Um, and so then we just go into something else, and we're about results here, and so that's one reason why I decided not to do that anymore. And then the other reason was that in my survey, people were saying, yeah, well, there's a link to things, but I didn't know where to click on the newsletter. And I thought, oh man, like if the 21st century has gotten that, it's just like we're just, I don't know. I just had to stop pouring my heart and soul into something where having links that literally don't know where to click. And the person said it sort of as a joke, but it's the truth of the reality. It's like I just need to rethink this and reinvent it, and so that's what we're working on now. And what we come up with is way better. It's much more profound, and it's going to. I'm confident it's going to. It's going to actually do what I thought the newsletter would do. And then maybe after that, we'll revive the print newsletter in a slightly different way. And I'm excited about that possibility as well. There's a lot of logistics involved. I'm really glad that I did it. I learned a lot. And there's a lot of ways to improve it and do it better. But the delivery thing was quite annoying. It was annoying that you can't do that, deliver it to all countries equally. But in any case, we've got something way better, and that's coming real soon. And yeah, thanks for asking about that, Harvinder. You were such a faithful and patient person with that wonderful experiment. Cat Satan says, should I learn a new language? I am Brazilian, so I've already learned a bit of English. Well, do you want to learn a new language? That would be the start, and if so, which one? I would say yes, sure, you should, but should is a dangerous word. I would say learn a new language if you feel passionate about communicating, and if you want to make your English better, then focus on English. Maybe just focus on your mother tongue more. That can be very rewarding as well. Here's the thing, right? You're always learning a language. If you're learning math, you're learning the language of math, and you're learning the terminology in your mother tongue or another language of that. So it's great brain exercise, and I highly recommend that you get into it and make it a daily practice. Look, it doesn't even have to be a language that you're going to use. Like I'm doing the Sanskrit stuff right now, and I'm not going to go speaking Sanskrit anytime soon as a conversational thing. It's a language for a different purpose. So it'd be like learning Latin and Greek to understand English better. That would be a perfectly legitimate thing to do. Not to necessarily go to some revival club to go and speak Latin and ancient Greek, right? So that's it's just a yes across the board. But you can also just learn your own language better, and that can be very rewarding as well. So Cat Satan says, I'm trying the Wim Hof method. I still love that name so much, Cat Satan. It's so funny. I'm trying the Wim Hof method, and it's been good, at least for now. I did Wim Hof for a long time. I still do elements of it. In Australia, you can believe the cold shower proposition is not quite the same, but I really like Wim Hof, and still do a lot of those things. Really happy about his contributions to the world. Thank you, Wim Hof. Thanks for mentioning. Anybody here else doing Wim Hof stuff, cold shower stuff, stretching, breathing? Ziad says, Anthony, what's your comment on speed reading? Is it real? Is it helpful? Well, is it real? Yes. And my good friend Jonathan Levy has a wonderful post all about this, and he addresses it in full. And I don't speed read myself. I do what I call bibliomancy, which is taught in the masterclass. If you don't have the masterclass, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language. The link is actually below, so you can just click it as well in the description, and you'll learn what I think is well, for the kinds of things that I like to do, which is read books really quickly and learn really quickly. It's different than speed reading, and I think you'll find it very, very powerful and useful. And at the end of the day, it will serve you really well. And the thing to get about it is when you have the goals that you have defined in advance properly, and you use the memory techniques to read through books in the ways that I recommend, then you really do. The reason I call it bibliomancy is you do this kind of magic, memory magic with the books, and you do it very, very quickly. But at the same time, I'm a real proponent and fan of reading books from beginning to end and making sure that you're not scanning. But the guy to go to that I would recommend if you want to learn speed reading is Jonathan Levy, and you can go through magneticmemorymethod.com/SL, and we've arranged a free trial of the Superlearner course for you. So that's magneticmemorymethod.com/SL, as in Superlearner. So you may want to do that. So that is something for you to check out. And yeah, it's real. People really do it. There's some great competitions and tests and so forth, and the science is, again, check out Jonathan Levy's stuff on that. But I don't myself do any of that kind of speed reading. I've developed a different process. So Rasmus says, thanks, I'll check out that video on memorizing self-inquiry questions. I noticed that the main reason behind negative feelings are expectations and judgments. For example, I theorize a lot because I want to progress a lot to avoid those thoughts and avoid berating myself. Right, well, look, I don't think that theorizing is necessarily the problem. It's just what kind of theorizing. So rethink the theorizing that you're doing and theorize better. Theorize differently and find better theorization. Use your skills and capacity for theorization to theorize better. Yunye's here from Hong Kong. Hello, Yunye, or HK anyway. I'm studying nutrition and trying to review, but sometimes it's too much to review. What do you recommend? Well, break it down and schedule your time, and just use that as an opportunity. We've talked a lot today about problems that people put in front of themselves, and too much to review is a problem of not memorizing it properly in the first place and not understanding review mechanisms like recall rehearsal better. If you're not already in the masterclass, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language, and there's a link for that down below, and grab that sucker so you can learn how to use memory techniques properly, and then you won't think that it's sometimes too much to review because you'll have compounding, and you'll just approach the whole thing better. So that's what I recommend. Cat Satan says, if I ever meet you, can I get you a barbecue? Our barbecues here are great. Well, thank you, Cat Satan. That's a really wonderful invitation. I really appreciate it. Yeah, well, I don't know. I have such strange food sensitivities, so as long as you can barbecue just straight up chicken with no sauce and no salt or anything like that, or maybe salmon, it's maybe a possibility. I'd rather have barbecue at my place on the roof and do a Memory Palace review there, because I'm not planning to travel too much in the near future. But let's definitely barbecue sometime soon. Hashir is here. All right, Hashir from Karachi, Pakistan. Had some great emails from you. Thanks for being here. If you're joining us now, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world. Since we're here, let's do a little bit more Q&A. So John, he is asking me, he's asking me about, can you teach me how to develop photographic memory? I already answered, and I said, the answer is no, no one can, and here's why. And so I sent him the link to my podcast on photographic memory, and I said, if you want something even better than, if you want something better than those scams and fallacies, then I can teach you something better. It's called the magnetic memory method. And he says, so are you saying photographic memory is non-existent? And to him, I already responded, but I'll share with you now. I said, I'm saying that yes, there's no evidence that photographic memory exists. The closest thing is hyperthymesia, and it's not photographic memory either. And then I just asked him, what's the kind of memory that you really want? Why would it be like photography when there's far better metaphors and options available? And you got to really think about that. When you're using something like photography, like, what's photography? It's this ancient technology these days, right? It's not. I want wonderful, amazing, magnetic memory, right? I don't want movie memory. I don't want old, crappy photography memory. I want memory that works, and that works at sizzling fast speeds, and is not taken forever to, like, and then the light has to come through the aperture and expose the film, and then you after all the pictures are taken, you take the film out of the camera and you put it in a chemical bath, and then you have to put out the photography paper and put the film camera in the film in the thing and expose and then adjust and color correct and all that stuff. Like, it's just a silly metaphor for memory. Memory is so much more powerful than a camera. I know that I'm exaggerating, but I really, really don't understand why people want to fuddy-duddy around with ridiculous metaphors of this nature. It's of no use whatsoever. Better metaphors, better frames. So let's see here. Hashir says, I've created all the alphabetical memory palace. Great. And Parth says, send me pictures. I'm not able to make a large memory palace. I don't recommend making large memory palaces, so I'm not sure which pictures. Oh, you want any ready-made palaces. The memory palaces of magnetic memory method students are on some blog posts here and there, so make sure you're watching or you're checking out the magnetic memory method blog, and most are in the masterclass, or in one of our communities. Great. Hashir says, please tell me how to learn verbs foam at one station. I'm not sure what verbs foam is, but right now there's some training available for you to take advantage of, because unless you're making, you said you've got all the memory palaces done, and I'm not sure what this foam business is all about, but I'm not sure that, I mean, foam as a verb, yeah, I guess you can foam something up, can't you? But if you need some of that, you should be in one of our 30-day vocabulary challenges so that you never have that issue again. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. And Parth needs 1,000 stations, and long theories are troublesome. Please help me. So go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT, take the free course, and get in there and learn how to create proper memory palaces and learn how to create multiple memory palaces, and you'll get 1,000 stations faster than you can imagine if you just follow that simple principle that we teach there. And if you need 1,000 stations, make sure you just build the network that supports that. I would challenge that you probably don't need as many as you think, but this is one of the problems that people have, is they don't get into the strategy enough, and they don't learn the full method, and so it's not really possible to explain it on a YouTube live or really outside of the masterclass. And you need to really make sure you've even taken the free training properly to fully unlock what's going on there. And one of the problems we have in the world now is with digital amnesia, people are just trained to glance at things and not dive deep into them. So it's highly recommended that you just follow the instructions and and do that stuff there, because you'll figure out how to make it proper very, very quickly. But this is something that's learned by doing, and trying to stop theorizing so much about it. Stop trying to get the numbers ahead of yourself, because you don't really necessarily know yet that you need 1,000 stations, or maybe you do need 1,000 stations, but it's very difficult to to know without knowing you better, and the way to do that is to be involved in the community and be a participant so that we can get to know you and know your projects. But if you need 1,000 stations, that's not a big deal. But the good news is you might not need that much if you have your strategy down. All right. So Par says, can you share your memory palace? Go to magneticmemorymethod.com and get involved in the community there and go through the site. You'll see memory palaces in abundance. But it's not about other people's memory palaces. It's about actually creating your own. So it's really important to try to understand that diving in and doing is really the best example that you'll get. There's nothing particularly special or magical about looking at dozens of examples of other people's memory palaces unless you know why they're doing it the way that they're doing it. And that's the real key. So it's like, say you wanted to compose music, right? Well, what would it matter if you go and look at all the compositions of a musician if you don't know the kind of song that they're trying to do, the kind of composition? If they're doing an overture, how would you even recognize it was an overture if you don't know what an overture is? Really, really, really important to go the other way around. Learn the techniques, learn the methodology. Then the examples will be so powerful. But examples ahead of knowing the strategy is the wrong way around. It's the cart ahead of the horse. All right. So Cat Satan says, what's your life goal? Sorry for making this a personal question. I don't know if you were comfortable with it. My life goal. Wow, great one. Well, let me... where should I begin? My life goal is very, very simple. My life goal is to live a life worth remembering. So far, so good. I really am devoted to creating the best possible destination for memory training, memory improvement, for the things that are possible and true about memory. And I've just been in my bliss building it ever since I got started. And it's obviously the world is guiding much of this to the successful place that it's going, because it's very, very important to be in line with your purpose and that you're true with what you're doing, and just keep going in that direction. So there's that, and to do that in other areas where I can help and serve people who are serious, mature learners of any age. You can be a mature learner at high school level or whatever, and who are really dedicated to getting it right in whatever it is that I choose to teach. And the things that I choose to teach are, memory. And the other one is Jonathan and I, Jonathan Levy from Super Learner. We decided we were going to help people who are like ourselves, who want to help other people create online businesses. So we made Branding U Academy, which you can visit at brandingu.academy right now. And it's good that you mentioned that, because we have a contest right now that we have found that not many memory people are all that interested in. So we have a separate audience for that, of course. But we have an opportunity for people to win a seat worth $10,000 at the next Genius Mastermind, Genius Network Mastermind group, with people like Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis going to be there. Dean Jackson's going to be there. Joe Polish is the guy behind it. And we don't know who else might be there, but it's very, very exciting. And you could win that seat. And actually, the clock is on for that at brandingu.academy/win right now. And so my life goal is to help other people who want to help others be able to do it with the internet. And we're just having a blast with that. And it's a long story. We've been doing that since 2015. And, the internet's a complicated place and so forth. And it's the same thing that we've been talking about today. The people, they overthink things, and they don't strategize in the right way. And we have been very successful because we implement, we take action. We don't get things in the wrong order, at least enough of the time. We're focused in the ways that you need to be focused in order to move forward in life. And so just help people do that. If they have authentic things to teach, real things to teach, how to do it, And we're so like honored and blessed to have gotten it so far that we are able to give away a $10,000 ticket to an event where people are going to get to meet the most powerful entrepreneurs in the world. So go to brandingyou.academy/win to check that out. And if you're an entrepreneur or you've ever wanted to be one, you're going to want to be in the Branding You Academy as well with Jonathan and I. And so thank you for asking that question, because my life goal is to really, really help people in the highest possible ways, and to help the people who are the most serious about actually receiving that, because they are going to focus on the outcomes and really, really focus on the fundamentals, and we can help them find that focus. But we need them. It's the law of education that I've known for a long time, is that the student must meet the teacher halfway. And the teachers that are real are the ones who don't just give handouts. They will challenge you. They will get you to master the fundamentals. And that can be challenging, because when you're a giving type personality, and you're just like, oh, well, this is how you do it, and blah, blah, blah. But that's usually not helping people, actually, because we know that you learn by being challenged. And the trick is to challenge just enough so that people don't get frustrated. Because when you get frustrated, you lose hope, you lose energy, and you want to give up. So this is where students and teachers have to meet each other halfway, because if people don't even allow themselves to be exposed to challenges that might frustrate them, then how are we ever going to challenge them to the point that we can help them find what I call the challenge frustration curve, so that you're able to move towards challenge and grow and identify that frustration spot, and then just scale back and make sure that you're being challenged so that you can continue to climb up in life. So that's my goal, is to just continue being better and better at helping people in these ways. And it's really important. So Cat Satan says, that's an awesome life goal. How did you discover your purpose? I think I could improve my life if I found my life goal, the meaning of my life. All right, let's talk about that. That's a good question. Hashir says, please mention a link for the academy. So it's brandingyou.academy. And the contest is brandingyou.academy/win. So I've got to write this backwards here, but I'm going to try and do it for you. Let's see. So normally I'd write a D that way, so I got to do it that way. Oh man, I don't normally write backwards here, but branding you like that. I didn't write it backwards very well. I gotta study backwards writing better. But brandingyou.academy. And I wonder if I just try and not overthink it. See if I can write it better. Branding. No, this won't show up. I've done backwards writing, but that's not gonna work. But let's see what it looks like, just for fun. Nah, it won't look right. No. But anyway, brandingyou.academy, and you put /win. I wish that I could type on this. Oh, you know what? I can maybe go into my own channel on YouTube here and type it into the chat for you. Whoa, next level. I love the internet. It's so fun. But sometimes you don't think of the most obvious things. And that's the thing, in life when you're a learner. Sometimes the most obvious thing is right in front of you. And you just don't see it. Oh, what am I doing? I'll go onto my own channel over here. So, you can always find this channel just by going to magneticmemorymethod.com/YouTube, and it'll bring you up to where we're at. And thanks, you guys. Let me know in the chat if you're just joining us where you are in the world. I'm going to type in here. So it'd be https://brandingyou.academy. And then if you want the contest, go to brandingyou.academy/win. Whoops, I didn't spell that right. Let me delete that. Typing too fast here. brandingyou.academy/win. And I think those things will work. Yeah, check those out. Great. Oh, look at that. I even have a little crown there on my chats. Nice. So So Hashir says, gives some love. Thanks a lot. Awesome. All right, so I want to get to Cat Satan's question about finding purpose and finding a life goal. Well, you know, one of the things to think about is, what is it that you just want to do, right? And what would life be like if you would just say, tomorrow, I want to wake up and do X, right? Now, just try and remove the goal thing, but just ask yourself, tomorrow I want to wake up and do X. Ask yourself what that would be, right? And it's really, really a great way to think, because then you can just say, I'm going to reverse engineer this, and then I'm going to figure out how to make it so that that's what my life is like, that tomorrow morning I wake up and do X, and go from there. You may have different life goals across the time of your life, but really just start with what you want to do tomorrow. If you could do anything tomorrow, what would that be? Let me know in the chat if you can share it, and we can jam on it a little bit more. But at the end of the day, just start with tomorrow. Start with tomorrow. And I think also, you know, I have a friend, a good friend. His name's Seth. He's writing a book on meaning. And we talk a lot about meaning. And people often think, well, what's the meaning of life? And my life doesn't have meaning, and yada, yada, yada. And the whole thing is and another friend of mine, we were talking about meaning also. And we were talking about Jordan Peterson and the whole thing with maps of meaning and so forth, which I'm reading right now. And I have some videos coming out around that. And he was like, I think this Jordan Peterson guy, he's sort of genius, like 10% genius or 90% genius or something like this. And and I said, well, isn't the definition of genius that you're a genius, or you're either a genius or you're not? It's like an all-in kind of proposition. And he was like, okay, he's total genius then. And I asked him, I said, well, what changes if he is a genius, and what changes if he isn't? And then we were talking about meaning, and I said, it's the same question, right? If life has a meaning, so what? Like, what changes if life has a meaning or not? If someone just said, hey, here's the meaning of life, here's what it is, and what changes if it's true, and what changes if it isn't true? Nothing changes, because things are already just as they are, right? And they so many things in life are as they are, and they are just as they are because they're how you want them to be. And so the question or the challenge I would put before you is just start with tomorrow. Don't worry about the meaning of life. Don't worry about having meaning in your life as such. Just think about tomorrow. What would you want tomorrow to be like? So, if it helps you, what I'd like tomorrow to be like is, I went to the gym this morning, so I probably won't go to the gym tomorrow, but I certainly want tomorrow to be a day when I just love going to the gym and bam, go to the gym. Like, I have that energy. And I want to have a wonderful, wonderful bit of silence with some meditation, spending some time, you know, just polishing my mind, relaxed, enjoy. Then I want to see my wife, see her nice smile, eat some breakfast with her, talk some Chinese here and there, and just enjoy and think about what I'm going to do to help people find memory techniques, and what I'm going to do to continue to grow this mission of building a memory university that is a destination that people want to come from all around the world to come and study memory, you know, in a physical location. And that's what I love to do, and I built the life to do that. And I got this other thing going on with Jonathan that I was just telling you about, and the link is in the chat there, is what can I do to help the people who want to build their own universities, pretty much like I already did online, Magnetic Memory Method is a university of memory training online. I want to build the real one in the real world. And I just think, what am I going to do to help those people? And so now, I don't need to know the meaning of life because everything I do is meaningful because it's moving towards that thing based on what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's just that simple. So I hope that helps you out. And let me know if you have more questions around that. But I think if you really start to think in that way, you're going to find that you can quickly create that. There's a program I created called Self-Improvement Supercharger, and it has some more tips around that you can always take as well that I think will help you. So, Harold's here. Oh, hello, Harold. It's good to see your name here. And you say, oh my God, I just started learning Italian and this came up. Excellent, excellent. Well, you may want to watch the replay. The core of the tips there were there already. I think you'll find that actually very useful. Yunye says, at Rasmus, check out Garrett Kramer on YouTube. He has a different theory about thoughts. Very helpful. Great. We'll check that out. Garrett Kramer. And I hope Rasmus will give us an update on that. Really appreciate that, Yunye. So many things to check out. That's like one of the amazing things about what's going on in the internet right now. So many things. So, Cat Satan says, so I can end up with a meaningful life by working on something I want to do. Yeah, I mean, there's more to it than that. It's like what I want to do relative to what I want to give, what I want to, the change that you want to create. Like if it's selfish based, yeah, maybe it'll still work. But you might want to think about how you're going to be integrated in the world and how you're going to give. And that can be very, very impactful. So one of the things that Jordan Peterson talks about in Maps of Meaning is he talks about how you need to set goals. So we'll get back to goals now, right? And I don't necessarily agree or disagree with what he's saying there in Maps of Meaning, but it's something to think about, and I found it very compelling to think about this. He said that you've got to set goals, but the success of the goals that you set will rely upon your current ability to actually have a chance of completing the goal. So that's very interesting. I don't think I fully agree with it, but it is something that is very compelling to think about. The reason why I would say that I don't fully agree with it is because it's just simply not true, and we know that it's not true for all people. But probably for the majority, you want to set goals that you actually can complete. I would change it in the ways that I've already talked about many times on this broadcast, is create the game that has the rules that, stack the chips in your favor so that you can't lose. But that's where the challenge frustration curve comes in, because it's really, really important that you are challenged above your level of skill in order to grow. You just got to make sure that you're not being frustrated. So in a way, it's sort of the same thing, because what he's saying there is that if you're too frustrated, then you're never going to get there. But I just don't think that you necessarily need to have the skill level in the same sense that he does. But I haven't finished reading the book either yet, so we'll see. And I'm going to finish it probably tomorrow or the next day. But it's very compelling. But one of the neat things there, too, that he talks about is, and the Maps of Meaning is actually about memory. He talks about memory a lot, and he talks about the memory levels that I talk about and have talked about earlier today in terms of episodic memory and procedural memory and all these levels of memory. And one of the compelling things that he says there, I think, is actually on page 77 in mine. Actually, yes, it must be. It's either page 77 or 72, but it's 77. He talks there about how that so much of the power of stories is the fact that we remember so much of the stories that we see because we've seen the patterns of the stories before. So he mentions Shakespeare there, and it's not only reading Shakespeare, you're recognizing stories that you've seen before, or seeing a Shakespeare play is calling upon your memory of other stories, but Shakespeare's ability to even write them calls upon his memory of those stories. So one of the issues that we have when we go to watch a new movie or something like this is how is our memory prepared to have pattern recognition of what's going on in that story. And I mention this in this context because this relates to the challenge frustration curve that we were talking about. So when you get into a situation where you're learning something new, if you know too much of the story already, you won't ever be challenged. The story of the journey towards improving your skills. But if there's too much of it that's unfamiliar to you, then you'll be quickly frustrated because the challenge is too much. The brain is overwhelmed by too much to do. This is why the magnetic memory method works so well for the people who just dive in, because it's actually asking you to just forget about the things you don't know for a while and focus on what you do know and really know what you already know, so that anything that you don't know, you can just into place very, very quickly, because you know how to weave it together with all the things that you already know because you've unlocked all these levels of memory. If you want to learn more about that, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language, dive into that training, and you'll learn about how all this works. Go straight to the master plan course in the masterclass. Then after that, take the study guide and pick the next class that you want to attend, and you'll find great benefit and value from doing it that way, because you'll have do the exercises that are there for you, and you'll find that you'll have a wonderful explosion of all these memory tools, and you'll recognize so many patterns, and when you see the new information you don't know, it'll just snap into place. So that's very good to go and get and avail yourself of. I'll just pop it into our chat here for you, so you have a link to click. And let's see here. Wow, this has been some great and interesting questions that I never know what to do, or I never know what to expect on our live chats here. Always great and compelling questions, and I always appreciate when you are all active and engaged. Huh, that's weird. What's going on here? Forgive me for a minute while I search this up. Did I do something wrong? Sometimes my technical ability, or my technical desires exceeds my technical know-how and ability, but I certainly thought that it was working before when I tested it. Sometimes the internet is just so strange. And again, I was mentioning earlier how much I admire all those tech guys. Oh yeah, that's working just fine. Must have been a temporary blip. Sometimes I get these emails from people, the this or that is down, and they email right back again 2 seconds later. Sorry, false alarm. Just went and refreshed my browser and all that jazz, and we're back. And it's like, yeah, that's just the way it is on the internet sometimes. There's so much fun with the internet. All right, so I'll pop that there in the link for you, and you can check that out. Great. So, yeah, click that link there if you want to check out magneticmemorymethod.com/language special offer this month. So, let's see. Cat Satan says, oh, Miguel is here. Regards, I'm in Argentina, 7 a.m. local time, watching you. Do you use mnemonic methods? Yes, I do. The corresponding values 4R, 5L, 6G to J, and then make your word code. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do, exactly. For 6, I use soft G only, and sh and j. Very powerful. Cat Satan says, I want to improve myself in order to help other people. I would like to become a medical doctor, but it's such a daunting thing to me at the moment that I'm confused about what I should do. Well, thank you for letting me know more about that. So you want to become a medical doctor, right? And it's big and daunting and so forth. But where are you now? What's the step between here and there? Well, I don't know, but just think about what tomorrow brings and what's the thing you could do tomorrow that brings you towards being a medical doctor. And just focus on that and make sure that you're moving towards that goal so that you're able to actually achieve it. Because ultimately, if you're worried about things that haven't happened yet, then how will you get there? How will you get there? Medical terminology like learning a language and so forth, and medical concepts, it's all just a matter of strategizing your learning time and using the best possible learning techniques to get it into memory. And I just was speaking with someone doing medical school, and it's just a no-brainer. It's not that difficult. It's just that people get in their own way. And we know why people get in their own way. They're usually not eating properly, they're not sleeping properly, and so they get impulsive and twitchy, and they don't take care of themselves. And so focus on the fundamentals. All the memory techniques in the world really will still require you to focus on the fundamentals. And speaking of which, we got a message here from Jacob, who says, I teach at University College in Denmark at the Department of Health and Nutrition, and my motivation for looking into the subject of memory and brain shape is partly a research project about dementia, where I participate, and it has made me wonder about my own brain age, partly due to a long stretch of sleep deprivation due to stress and kids. And my frustration is not a frustration, but a curiosity and a feeling of standing on a burning platform regarding my brain. I've started a personal research project regarding brain health and memory and learning techniques, and have started a small blog to keep my notes organized. That to keep me motivated. Wow, excellent. Okay, so no question there, but great update from Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. All right. Well, listen, everybody. I had a really great time tonight, and I hope that you did as well. And so if you're just joining us and these are the last minutes and you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe and go to magneticmemorymethod.com. Check out this particular offer at magneticmemorymethod.com/language. It's down in the link below. It's in the chat there. You can link it. We got some other links there. People were asking about Branding You Academy. And yeah, do good things for yourself. Think differently about whatever it is that you may be thinking that's creating unnecessary friction and challenges, and just approach things in a way that's more kind to yourself and give yourself the best possible learning and memory advantage. That's what we help people do all the time at magneticmemorymethod.com, and it was great to have Harvinder here, for example, today to really hear about, what was the number he said? 67 memory palaces he created. I didn't actually hard memorize that number, but let me go see if I got it right anyway. I'm going back through the chat. I like to test my own memory. I like to also see that effect where, do I remember things correctly even if I didn't actually use the memory techniques? So in this case, I'm scrolling back. I want to test myself. I want to see how I did. And then, if I got it wrong, I'll think, oh, yeah, I got it right. So it was 67 that he typed there. Bravo, Harbinder. That's amazing. I just am so... It was such a wonderful experience we had there. This group that went through that challenge, and I love doing these challenges. So we're going to do some more in the near future. In any case, everybody, thank you for a wonderful time this evening. And if you're in the Branding You Academy world already, I'm going to go have a little live stream over there. But for now, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/language, and we're going to talk again real soon. And until we do, keep yourself magnetic. Bye-bye.